That's good. So how many sound engineers does it take to change a light bulb? 2. 2, 1, 2. I just threw that in there. Now, like Pauline, I had a presentation that has, in part, been blown apart by events of yesterday. This is the peril of speaking on day 2. My presentation is about educating influencers or influencing influencers. It's about those outside influences that affect our industry, that need to affect our industry in a positive way. And I've got a few examples of how we've worked. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm just going to tell you how we think we've done it. But here's a good way to influence influencers. Freddie, here's a good idea. Have a conference, okay? Invite the minister for the department that directly affects your industry. Say, arts and culture. Have his people stay for the weekend. Get him to hang around after his talk, and that's an achievement in itself. To get him here, round of applause. To make him hang about, another round of applause. And then get him to listen to people who've done what you need to do. Get him to listen to people who have set up technical institutes in other parts of the world. Get him to talk to somebody who set it up with their own money. Get him to talk to people who've used the funded arts and funding to set up an academy. Get him to listen to those people and think, walk away from here. I think he probably walked away from here thinking, we should have one of those. So now what you need to do is deliver it. Because I don't think he's going to ask you. Has he asked you? Will he ask you again? I don't know. I don't think so. What you need to do next, probably, is get the room, get the people in the room, those other associations. You've got promoters here. You've got the TPSA in here. You've got other people in here that can maybe give you the mandate to go away and write that plan and put it in front of the minister and make it happen. Okay? So that's the end of the presentation. Because it was blown to pieces. But hey, you know, I'm here. And I spent about 2 months thinking about this. I spent about a week writing a load of notes. I spent, well, half an hour with PowerPoint. You'll see why. And then I've got some little cards here. Little cards of brevity. These are the little things that keep me on track. Okay? So what I do, I work for the Production Services Association. What I'm doing in South Africa, I'm coming to talk. Now, my first experience of South Africa was when I was a teenager in the 80s. Oh, yes. My experience in South Africa was through the TV and the news. And frankly, I didn't like what I was seeing. And I was influenced, and I was getting politicized, and I needed something to rebel against, so thank you for delivering that. I did naughty things in supermarkets with South African fruit as a protest. I didn't get arrested. No, not that naughty. Your mind. So, fast forward a little while, and I get told about this guy. I get introduced to this guy called Freddie, okay? And it was interesting, you know. 10, 20 years later, I get introduced to a guy called Freddie. This is a black South African who's allowed on an aeroplane. I see that as progress from what I was seeing in the 80s. This is a good thing. And then I get told what Freddie's doing. And it introduces me to one of my favourite words, a word that's been used a hell of a lot this weekend. It's the O word, opportunity. Because back in the 80s, I had a look at the science, the theory of oppression. And if you want to oppress a group of people, don't educate them. That's a really good start. Or refuse to educate them in the language that they speak. Yeah? So, and it still happens today. It still happens today. There are groups of people, they're called women, who don't get the education that they deserve in certain countries, in certain cultures. So that was the language they speak. So when I meet somebody who's taken the new state and grabbed a load of people and delivered them an opportunity through this wonderful world of production, this person becomes a bit of a hero of mine. So Freddie, you are one of my heroes, just like the other people. So thank you for the invitation. But also, Freddie, there are many, many times I want to kick you up the arse. Because no hero's perfect. They say never meet your hero, but I can't get enough of the guy. So When I started doing my job at the PSA, I have an admission, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was given the opportunity to run a trade association that wasn't doing too well, turn it round, make it good. And I went to see a few members, and I went to see this one particular person who was very difficult to part with his cash, okay? He's got it, and he doesn't want to give it away. And he spent an hour, he bought me lunch. So we're in a cafe, eating soup, generous guy. And he spent an hour looking at the excuses to not part with a relatively small amount of money to fund the work that the PSA does on his behalf. And he said to me, Andy, see, I'm only interested in the things that directly affect my business. Buying speakers, renting speakers, sending invoices. So the stuff that you do doesn't really interest me. And that gave it to me. That was the spark. Trade associations deal with the things that indirectly affect your business, those outside agencies. So we deal with governments and their departments and the people who change the tax rules, change health and safety laws. We need to make sure that those governments, those agencies do positive things. So how do we speak to them? We have to speak their language. We have to educate them in their language. But this is a positive side of things. And the way we do it is things like this. Here's a little video for you to watch. Do we have audio on the video channel? Are we ready to go? And we're going to click this.
At the heart of the music industry are 4 core commercial assets: music composition, master recordings, live performance, and the artist's brand. These assets contain the value which transforms music from a non-commercial hobby into a successful industry. The music industry defines itself as those who create the core assets and those who work to monetize the assets, preparing them for sale and distribution. In 2012, this core music industry contributed £3.5 billion to the UK GDP through closely linked and interdependent activities. Musicians and composers, producers and recording studios, record labels, music publishing, live performance, and music representation, such as artist management and collecting societies. Music exports contributed £1.4 billion to the UK economy. This is 40% of the music industry's entire GVA, a ratio 5% higher than the national average. In addition, music enhances the UK's international brand and reputation. In monetary terms, this was estimated to be worth £72 million to the UK in 2012. Over 100,000 people are employed by the UK music industry, with the vast majority working in its creative heart, composing, recording, and innovating the future of music. Human creativity is music's R&D. The industry is driven by investment, with typically around 20% of record label revenues being poured back into artists and repertoire. Record labels and publishers invested more than £450 million in 2012. Music collecting societies are also investing significantly into data infrastructure to keep the UK's competitive advantage in global digital markets. Investment today ensures that the UK music industry will continue to thrive, develop, and innovate tomorrow.
So there we have a video, but where did that video come from and what does it mean? There was a figure in there, £3.5 billion, and underneath there were 3 letters, GVA, okay? And this is the language we need to speak. GVA means gross value added. And what gross value added is the profit that companies make in the music industry and the wages they pay in the music industry. And the interesting figure about that in terms of government is that they can tax profit and wages. So that's income for the country, and they can go and spend it on great things. Okay? So that's how they tax people, apart from Starbucks and Amazon. But that's another story. In the research, in the document that video comes from, there's a little line that says the value of production services to live music. Okay? And that's a very dry little graph chart kind of thing, but it makes my heart sing. Because when I started this job, I kind of thought we need to separate being a technician in the live music industry, separate that from running away with the circus. okay? Because you jump on a tour bus and you're on the big circus. So and there's a lot more respect required. So when we get a line in a report that's been peer-reviewed by the Department of Culture, Media and Sport and the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills and Oxford Economics, and is the report that sits in front of government when we're asking them for things, when production services for live music is included in that, that's a little victory. That's the kind of thing that trade associations should be doing, and we achieve that. So that's a really good achievement. And the next achievement is to actually move away from the roadie thing. Freddie, I'm asking you, move away from the roadie thing, yeah? Roadies are box pushers. These guys here, I haven't seen a box pusher, I've seen technicians. Now, it's been alluded to, we're developing an apprenticeship under a new system of apprenticeship development in the UK. And we're calling it Live Event Technician. And we've been put in front of a learned society, the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, who've looked at our apprenticeship and said, do you know what? That really looks like a technician designation. We could give them a professional designation of Tech Eng. That's like letters after your name. Okay? That's not me, roadie Tech Eng. That's me, lighting technician, sound technician, video technician, with letters after my name if I choose to pay and join their society. But the qualification to join is there. That is the level at which we want to operate. We want government recognition because of the money we contribute, and we want the recognition of the people who do the jobs because of the skills they have to deliver events like this and bigger, okay? And when we get those figures, we can say, dear government, we're worth this. If you do that, that figure will go down. If you do this, that figure will go up. Please help us and do this. Okay? So it's the base point. It's their language, and it's the base point from which you lobby for changes that are positive effects on your industry. So it's taken a little while to learn that, but we've achieved it. How do we achieve it? Because we're a trade association, and the sound of one representative voice speaking clearly is much better than 100 people saying the same thing in a different way. We're at the arrowhead. We're a distilled opinion of our members. Okay? But the UK government said, well, the music industry's got so many component parts, as we've seen. But we need them to speak with one united voice. We can't listen to the Musicians' Union and the PSA and the concert promoters and the songwriters. We need an umbrella. So the Performing Rights Society, the people who pull in all the money from performances to give to musicians, agreed with their musician members to fund an organisation called UK Music. It costs £1 million a year or thereabouts, which is about a bajillion squillion rand. But it's effective because we now have that one voice. If I need to speak to somebody in a department of government, I go through them because they employ a public affairs director and he's always there. Okay? But they prepared that because government said, so now go out and measure the music industry and see how much you're worth. Okay? So we have that kind of, I have an indirect phone line. I know who to go to. I don't make the phone calls myself. We distill the music industry. Okay? But it's not all about music, of course. There's this kind of thing. Business events. They're very important. Sporting events as well. You had the World Cup and maybe a legacy. We can never plot the legacy, can we? It's not all about the music. There's an organisation called the Business Visits and Events Partnership. It does a similar job to UK Music. It's not as well funded, but it represents those businesses that try and attract events to Britain. So exhibition venues, conference organisers, event management companies, all that kind of thing. People who provide backdrops. We get together, okay, and we talk about how we can sell Britain as an event destination. Now, we joined because we think that the production services sector in Britain is an asset to Britain as an event destination because we do really good things. We export people to other countries to produce events. I've got members in Azerbaijan at the moment who are putting together an opening ceremony for the European Games. We export people all around the world with expertise. When they stay at home, they can make our events industry, they're an asset to it. And it's about what visitors spend. Now, I was very fortunate to be taken around Newtown when I arrived, on the day I arrived. I was a little bit tired, a little bit hungry. But I went there, and we were getting told about a little bit of the history of Johannesburg, a bit about the future of Johannesburg, and a bit about what Newtown is and can be. And I saw a gift shop, and I thought, oh, sister's birthday soon. She'd like that. Parted with money. I'm a visitor to a business event, and I spent some money. Okay? That's good for your economy. I got the coffees in. I bought a toastie. I was hungry. You know, we've all been out for a meal. As a result of me being here, somebody bought me dinner last night. That's down to the fact there's a business event. Okay? The value of that to the UK's economy, the spend that business visitors make, £36 billion. If it didn't look good and sound good because of those guys over there, they wouldn't want to come. They'd just go somewhere else. So it's important. And we sit there and we go, hey, hi, events industry. We're production. We're quite important too. So eventually we'll have our slice of that. We'll let government know how important we are in value to that industry as well. We also give recommendations for growth. It's back to that, hey, if you do this, it'll get even bigger. They wrote a manifesto. UK Music wrote a manifesto for all the political parties. Business Visits and Events Partnership wrote a manifesto, gave it to all the parties and said, pop this in your manifesto, you might get some votes. Didn't work. So that's the money side of things. Other people who influence us, health and safety executive, greatly. There's a white line at the end of here, so I don't fall off. That's a good thing. Okay? If I do, it's my fault. The health and safety executive deal in a different currency, and that's lives, or not injuring people. They influence us with regulations. Okay? And it's a weird job working at the health and safety executive. If your department is successful, you have your budget cut. Our problem is, it was said to me, our problem is we don't kill enough people because their budget isn't very high. They get 2 members of staff and they deal 95% of the time in fun fairs because that's where the danger is. Okay? But we engage with them. The whole entertainment industry and their safety representatives and the representatives of their trade associations sit around a big table with the HSE twice a year in their Joint Advisory Committee for Entertainment. Together, we wrote the Event Safety Guide, the Purple Guide. Okay? It's a distillation of rules and regulations. It's no new regulation, it's explaining how you apply regulation to your industry, to our industry. And don't forget, that is what self-regulation is. It's not about making new laws for yourself. Don't do that. You know, there are enough rules. It's about interpreting the rules that exist and applying them to your industry, speaking their language. Okay? We've done really well with that. It's been around for 20 years. We've got the Event Safety Guide. It's changed. It's online. More about Event Safety Guides later. We've got new regulations. Adrian spoke very briefly about them yesterday. Construction, design and management regulations. Suddenly we are the construction industry because we build things. This is construction. 95% of it is good. 5% makes it a bit of a pain. But we've worked with the health and safety executive to interpret it to our needs. They're issuing specific guidance for the events industry because we're engaged with them. We're influencing them, how they influence us. This Joint Advisory Committee for Entertainment is for us to advise them, not really for them to advise us, okay? So that engagement, speaking in people's language, it happens all the time. And if you have agencies like that, whether they're local or national, that's how you do it. My first task was to look at the noise at work regulations. Controlling noise at work. We make noise, that's our product. You know, noise is usually a byproduct. Noisy machine in a factory, yeah, okay, move people away, buy a quieter one, put a shield around it. Turn the music down. No. But we were given the chance to interpret what those regulations actually said. It was controlling, it wasn't turning it down, and it was for workers. So if it's noisy and you don't need to be there, don't be there. Step out, go to a quiet bit. So we interpreted those rules. That was my first job. I went to a meeting where they were writing the guidance. My name wasn't on the list. I'm sorry, my name's not on the list. Got a pen out? It is now. Gate crashed the meeting. But after that was cheeky, but what you have to do then is speak sense. So I have to be very, very quiet for a while before I get some sensible feelings inside me, and then talk sense. And once you talk sense and speak their language, we were on side. I ended up writing some chapters with some people, you know. Now, it can go wrong, okay? Radio frequencies, wireless microphones. I'm using this because this illustrates the use of wireless microphones. And I'm a poser, and the only good thing about me is my shoes. So, in the UK and around the world, we're using more and more mobile phones, communication devices. Apple's fault. Did it tell you used to work for Apple? Anyway, so we're using more and more mobiles. The frequencies that they use are the same frequencies that television uses. But they're also the same frequencies that radio microphones and in-ear monitors use. Okay? Television is a great thing because they developed some technology to squash the signal into a digital space, throw it over less airwaves because it's smaller, and then open it up at the other end. And what you get is a very good representation of what came out of that end. But the sound's rubbish, let me tell you. So, digital television gets squashed into a smaller space, opening up all these frequencies to sell to mobile phone operators. It's a great thing. Oh, and there's these radio microphones as well. Where can we put them? They don't use them much, because the problem is we were fitting in the gaps between TV stations, and we should have been paying for licenses. But because we can turn up, do it, and then go away, everybody was getting away with it. So the figures they used for the use of radio microphones were about that big compared to the use, which was actually that big, because they were looking at licensing figures. So we had to go, a group of people who use radio microphones, to Ofcom and say, sorry, our bad, but we actually been using quite a lot more than you think, and we need to keep using it, because if you switch them off and sell them to Vodafone, the West End will close down. Festivals won't happen, and we're worth this much money, and that'll go, and we'll go and tell the government. And there was a select committee, and Ed had to go and sit in front of the select committee, and they gave us some other space, and it was outside the frequencies that everything is tuned to, so everybody got compensation, threw all their old stuff away, bought new stuff in the new frequencies, and it worked. And that was a big panic. There was a massive panic when everybody got a letter saying, can't use that anymore. But we worked it out. So there's government, a couple of government agencies. That's how we influence them, by apologising for being naughty. But we can influence each other as well, okay? So although this is an internal influence, okay, it's not a day-to-day influence, but how we influence each other, like our clients influence us by saying, I want to pay less, okay? Here's a good-looking guy. Yeah? I know you're thinking that, ladies. It's a guy called Scott. Now, I've never met Scott, but one Sunday morning, Scott made me cry. Because of that. Okay? Scott's no longer with us. Now, I was upset because I'd seen that happen before. So frustration. I was also upset because I didn't know who died, and there was a mate of mine there. So it still gets me now, all right? Now, I'm not going to go through the disaster porn thing, so there's a kitten, because that'll make us all feel a bit better. But that had a profound influence on Scott, and I don't know the ins and outs of the case. I've looked, and all I can see is that the promoter is still in the frame. The company that built the stage is still in the frame. Scott's still dead. Who gives a shit, you know? Somebody's going to get fined, but things have got to improve, because they say every time an aeroplane crashes, flying gets safer. Yeah? Now, we've had a terrible, terrible plane crash recently, and everybody's like, why did that happen? And then you find out and say, wow, that's never happened before. But it won't happen again because they'll put checks in place, although we're now dealing with human emotion. So that might be a little bit more difficult. But it's not every time a plane crashes that it gets safer. Every time something goes a little bit wrong and the pilot says, oh my God, that went wrong, they can make it safer. What about the things we don't hear about that make flying safer? The near misses. Okay? And how do they relate to accidents that actually cause people to die? Here's a pyramid. Okay? This is a widely accepted illustration of the relationship between accidents, serious accidents, and deaths caused by workplace accidents. Okay? For every 600 near misses, you get 30 damages to property. You lead on to 10 serious injuries. Every 10 serious injuries, 1 death. And this is illustrated, this illustration is for similar jobs, repetitive tasks. So it can be digging holes. Every 1,000 holes you dig, you have 600 near misses. Building stages, the fight against gravity. Okay? Building stages. How do we know that a stage isn't being built now somewhere that's going to fall over, that's one of the near misses? Okay? How do we cooperate globally to say, this is how we should be operating? Okay? I know, and I'm leading on to this, and this is where it gets controversial, I know a stage fell over here back in November. In Davidton. I'm on Facebook, I hear these things. I also hear that because nobody died or got injured, it didn't really matter. It's fine, so we don't need to investigate because that costs money. But that investigation can find out what went wrong. And finding out what went wrong, you tell people, don't do that again because it'll go wrong. And you remove somebody from the bottom of that pyramid and you save the person at the top of that pyramid. And the person at the top of that pyramid might not be in this country. You know, it might be the person that died when a structure fell over at the Linkin Park show here. You know, in the UK, I think it was during your World Cup. Well done, by the way. Your World Cup in Birmingham, in the Midlands. There was a fan park. There was a screen put up so people could go into the centre of town, join together and watch the England game. It was a windy day, and the screen supporting structure fell over. Okay? Nobody was there, nobody was hurt, but there was still an investigation because by law, if a structure collapses, you have to investigate. Okay, that's in the UK, by law. You have to report it, it will be investigated. The people who built it said, it's okay, it was designed to fall backwards. It wouldn't have fallen into the crowd. Birmingham City Council were flooded with phone calls from suppliers saying, I can give you one that won't fall over at all. And it can be done. People got fined, people got sacked, you know, and nobody got killed. But that's not going to happen again, especially in Birmingham. So it's, the regulations, the rules, and the guidance doesn't have to be written in blood. We have to recognise every near miss as an opportunity to improve. A stiffly worded letter to the people in Davidton who didn't investigate may be appropriate. I'm looking at you. Okay. We need to be serious about investigating. Most people want to do it right. Okay? Most people want to do it right. And get to those people that want to do it right. Get them together. And this is in the context of staging, but it can be anything. It can be anything. Most people want to do it right. If you get them together and they agree on things. Go back to UK music. We have a rule in UK music that if any of the parties around the table disagree on something, they disagree on it outside UK music. We only deal with things we agree on. Okay? Now, if staging companies get together, fiercely competitive in the UK, if they get together and agree on safe working practices, if they take the law and interpret it into their talk, they come up with this. Now, blessing. This is where, oh no, I need to go back. This is where we need, is blessing awake? Yeah, this is my slide, man. This is a PDF, so initially, you come up with something like this. And it actually did take about that long to get it together. It was a lot of work. Now this is penned by a group of major suppliers of stages in the UK. We sat with them, the health and safety executive had a look over it, and we came together with this, and there are copies in this country because it's online, and I know Freddie's got one, I know Kevin's got one, and you are welcome to take that and interpret it into your context, into your rules and regulations. That's, open source stuff, because these people might come and work on a stage here, so, it's standard stuff. Now, they all got together and wrote that because we all fight gravity in the same way. Let me show you. Beautiful assistant. All right, to 3, I'll say jump, and then we jump, okay? 1, 2, 3, jump. There you go. I've done that the world over, thank you. I've done that the world over, and every time I do it, we land at the same time, because gravity works the same everywhere we go. So look, hang on. Electricity. Have I got another volunteer? No, that works the same the world over as well. Everybody is just as scared of electricity the world over. So why don't we try and globalize this a little bit? Maybe there's a way to do that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this guidance isn't just for all the staging companies to beat each other up and say, you should do it like this and you should do it like that. We've agreed. They've all agreed. This is like a letter. It's a letter to the health and safety executive saying, dear health and safety executive, this is how we work. Is that okay? And as they were in the meetings, it's kind of understood that it's okay. That's the way we should work. They were in the meetings. I got photographs of them in the meetings. I said it was for publication. It's not. It's for the court case, just in case they deny they were there. It's logged and kept. It's also a letter to the client saying, dear client, if we work like this, we all stay out of jail. How about it? This is the way we need to work. Let us work like this. Because in the UK, the client has legal and defined responsibilities for choosing safe contractors and allowing the resources and the time for those contractors to work safely. And that sets out what those resources should be in a very simple way to talk to the client. We've got massive books about structures that the client will never read. So we distill it into what the client needs to know. Speak their language. Okay. Oh, there's another side to this one. So it's an international business. We've demonstrated that gravity works the same the world over, and there was a conference with the subtitle, Gravity Works the Same the World Over. We'll talk about that. So it's about a global influence now. Now, 4 years ago, I went to another conference in America called Tourlink, and a guy called Jim Digby got on stage and started talking passionately. Love it when that happens. Started talking passionately about safety. He'd just seen a really big stage fall over in the wind in Indiana and kill 7 people. He spoke of the time when he pressed a button in a nightclub and somebody died because of a lack of communication. Something that was taken apart wasn't put back together, and it was an effect that shouldn't have been used. The communication didn't. That lack of communication had a profound influence on a young lady. He spoke of that, and he spoke of the idea that the UK had 200 pages of guidance on event safety, and the USA had nothing. Absolutely nothing. But they still had gravity, they still had electricity. So he put together what is called the Event Safety Alliance. And they took the Purple Guide, the Event Safety Guide from the UK, and interpreted it into US talk. Now, it's slightly fatter than ours, but I'm not saying anything about the USA there. There's probably just more content that they need to put in. They had to interpret into their legal language, and their legal language is far more expensive than our legal language. Fast forward to this year, and a meeting was called in Istanbul. And Istanbul is a gateway. It's a gateway between Europe and Asia. It's a great city. Never been. I got invited. I went. I want to go back. Okay. And at this conference, we spoke about the idea of a global Event Safety Alliance. And the subtitle of that conference was Gravity Works the Same the World Over. And starting from that basis, that agreement, there were people from Australia, there were people, me, UK, a couple of UK people, Italy, Croatia, America, Turkey, of course, Germany, very precise. They were there bang on time and went home bang on time. And we spoke about the idea of a Global Event Safety Alliance. And we kind of started it with the idea, because you have to start these things, don't you, Adrian? You know? And you have the idea and the inspiration, you put in some work. So we have an opportunity now to start some global thinking with safety, because Jim comes over here. You know, when somebody died when an advertising hoarding fell over outside a Linkin Park gig. How ironic that Jim, the architect of the Event Safety Alliance, is the production manager for the band who were playing at the time. I saw that happen and I thought, I hate irony. One of the safest guys on the planet, and outside his gig. Nothing to do with the band, but the band gets named in the headline. That's the important thing. So we owe it to the bands. And now his band have some safety requirements written into their contract. We would like to play on a stage that doesn't fall down. Simple things. You know? And if we get a stage that might fall down, we're not playing, but you're still paying. Because we got American lawyers. So, Jim was put together. Now, I've been sort of asked, I don't know if it's official yet, because the ink isn't dry on the Memorandum of Association, but I was asked by Jim. He dispatched one of his guys to bring another copy of this to me. This isn't for me. This is for Freddie, because you put this together. Come here. Come here. Come here. This is an invitation to take this, come on board with the people who you have some kind of agreement with. Forget about the disagreements. Yeah. Let's all agree on gravity and how it's done. But take that, rewrite it, reshape it, but come on board and be part of the Global Event Safety Alliance. Come and report back. Do it. Yeah. I'll tell Jim I did that. Okay? I need to send that photo. I need that photo. I need proof. They're not going to pay my airfare because it's been paid already, so it's cool. So we now have a Global Event Safety Alliance. This is a gateway to Africa. So as Turkey opened up a gateway between Europe and Asia, let's hope that we can put that together. Okay? Because it's a simple idea. And of course, there are the naysayers, where for every solution, there's a problem. But let's forget about that, because there are lots of problems that we have joint solutions to that already exist. There are no blank sheets of paper when it comes to event safety. So what we need to do is agree and work together. And where standards needs raising, that can help raise the standards. But there are some places where standards are far higher than we're used to. Germany. We can also help people who are taking their work to places like Italy and Germany and help them understand the standards and how they need to operate within those standards before they get there, so it doesn't come as a shock. So you can raise the bar where it needs raising, and you can raise yourself to the bar where you need to do that. And that's the theory behind the Global Event Safety Alliance. Let's keep it simple. I'm a fan of simple. So wherever you are with standards, we can move and we can share. Because safety is the one thing we have to agree on, okay? Because, as we've spoken about yesterday, people are the greatest asset. You know, a totalitarian, oppressive regime. What a stupid idea. You know, there were some good sound technicians out there at the time. You know, the next great person, the next great thinker was there. Idiots. Don't throw away your talent like that. So there it is, really. To influence those, and we need to lose this PDF. To influence those that influence us, we just have to speak their language. Okay? Don't talk in a different language. Don't talk to government in the language of DMX and sticks of trust and line array and point source, protocols and what have you. They ain't going to listen. You know, it's all really clever, But what you need to talk about is safety, but influence. And this is what it leads back to, how we influence people. It's all in the interpretation. Okay? Speak their language, and you'll go a long way. That's that. Let's have a panel.